Learn to create an action game in Unreal Engine 5 at unfgames.com. Want to learn how to add a jetpack in your game? Hello y bienvenidos! In this video we will learn how to create a jetpack blueprint, give it to our character and start flying around. After getting the functionality out of the way, we will polish it a little bit just to show you more features inside Unreal Engine 5 that you may take advantage of, like the animation blueprint and Niagara. Let's start by adding a character. This is a completely blank project, so I'm going to click on Add Feature or Content Pack, and let's choose the third person. Now that we have the third person content, I'm going to create my own folder. Here, new folder. I'll call it the same name as my project. Here, I'm going to create the actual game mode of this mechanic. So let's create a folder called Framework. Create a blueprint class, game mode, and this will be the way that we are choosing which character do I want to play whenever I press, well, play. So this will be called game mode jetpack. Inside it, and I can close all of this. Inside it, I do need to select my default pawn class, and I'm going to select the player that I already created, which is this one, the third person character. Now I want to use this game mode, and let's say I want to use this in this map. We can go here to the blueprint button, game mode base, and select game mode base class, which is the game mode jetpack. Let's press play, and now I have my character. My character will start wherever my camera is, so it would be a good idea to add a little player start. And this will take in consideration the rotation, so my character will always start there looking that way. There it is. Let's create the blueprints for the jetpack. I'll go here, and in the folder of my project, I'll just create a new one called Jetpack. The way that the jetpack is going to work is very similar to GTA San Andreas, where you had a jetpack in the map and you can just run towards it and you get it. Okay, so I'll create a blueprint. It's an actor because I'm going to put it in the map. Call it blueprint jetpack. And inside it, I do need something to represent the jetpack, so I'll just create, what could it be good? Cylinder. Yeah, 2 cylinders could be just fine. So this will be left side, and I'll create the right side in a minute. Let me just put it a little bit smaller, and let me reduce the camera speed. So here you see that it disappears. We just need to get rid of this snapping, so we have a lot more control. So 0.1, I was liking that. And in Z, let's put it in 0.5. If I'm talking about the left side, we need to take in account that X positive is the front. So if this is going to be the left side, well, I need to have the X in front of me. I'll duplicate this with Ctrl D and move it to the other side. Something like this. Now I'll put the jetpack in my view, just so I know a rough estimate of the size. So let me see if it can fit Yeah, I believe is good enough. Yeah, it's good enough. I'm just going to bump the values in X and Y to 0.2. And again, 0.2, 0.2. Yeah, now it looks a little bit more like an actual jetpack, maybe. Let's drop the snapping 5, and that's a lot better. Right, so this represents my jetpack, but I need a way to pick up this jetpack. So I will click on the default scene route, click on Add, and click on Box Collision. And whenever I enter this box collision, then I want to pick up this jetpack. So here I'll call it box collision. I'm gonna make sure that in the collision section it says overlap all dynamic. I could also put it overlap only pawn, because the pawn is the character that is going to pick up this object. So I'll put overlap only pawn because it would be more appropriate. Okay, so we have the jetpack, we have it also here. I want to attach it to my character whenever I come near it. So in the same jetpack, here in the box collision, I can right click, add an event, and on component begin overlap, I'll check if the other actor is a character with a little cast. A cast is just a way of asking Unreal if this actor, which right now is from the class actor, is also a character, which is another class that inherits from the actor. So this way we could get information inside of the character, right? And if it is a character, I want to attach actor to actor. The parent actor is the character and the target is self, because the same jetpack is the one that I want to touch. Socket name, for now I'll leave it blank. Location rule, keep world. Rotation rule, snap to target. I want to have the same rotation of my character. And scale, keep world. We can leave this checked, so the bodies, if for some reason were simulated, had their physics active, then it will still get attached. So now let's try it. I'll pick this up, and now it is completely attached. Now here in location rule, I want it to attach specifically to a point. So here I'll just snap to target to see what's happening, and it will try to snap to the 0,0 location of my character, which right now it's inside of the character. The jetpack has collisions. So here in the left sides, these two meshes, I'm selecting them with shift, and in collision, instead of blocking, I'll just put no collision. So the only thing that will have collisions in this blueprint is this box collision. Now let's press play, and now we have it there, which is not that practical. So we do need to change the location of my jetpack. So let's fix this the way that one normally would do it. Okay, so this is what we have now. But I want to declare a point that I want to snap it to. So I need to open my character, which is called the third person character. I'm pressing Ctrl P. Here in Open Asset, here I'll go to third person character. Blueprint third person character, this is it. If I go to the viewport, here's my character. And I'm going to select the mesh. Here in the mesh, well, we have the skeletal mesh. Let's double click it. And now let's click here on the skeleton. Here, in this editor, we can create those points where we can attach stuff. So for example, you can select any part of the body. If you wanted to attach something to the hand, you will probably choose here in hand. I wanted to attach the jetpack to the spine. So here I will search which one of the spines is the one that would work the best for me. And this is it, the spine 05. So I'm just going to right click it, add a socket. And a socket, we have it here, spine socket. We can rename it. Let's just right click, rename, or F2. And I will call it jetpack socket. I'm gonna select all the name and I'm going to copy. Now I do need to make sure that this jetpack socket is correctly positioned. So here I'll press W, or you can press here also one of these buttons, and I'm going to put it at the back, like this. Now let's save this, and we will go back to the jetpack. Now here we are attaching actor to actor, but the thing that has our socket, which is called jetpack socket, is the mesh. So instead of attaching to the actor, I need to attach to a component. Actor to a component. So the actor, the target, it's still self, but instead of parent actor, we want the component, which is inside the character, and it's called mesh. Here it is, get mesh. Now we want again to snap it to a target, and the scale, I'll keep it to the world. Now I do need to say which one of those sockets, if we have more than one, we want to attach it to. So I'll paste my jetpack socket, and these names do need to match. So now let's test it. Let's compile, save it, and play. If I get the jetpack, now I have it in my back. Now it's just a thing of fixing the rotation, which in our case it will mean that we are rotating it like 90 degrees here, I believe. I'll press Alt P so I can test it again easily. And now I need to rotate 90 degrees this way. I'll press Alt P again. And now I have the jetpack. Could be a little bit lower actually. Like here, maybe. Alt P. Yeah, a lot better. Perfect. Now we have our jetpack in our back. Let's save everything. We can close the persona editor, that's how it's called. And in the jetpack, let me clean a little bit of the code so we have it working correctly. Now that we can attach the jetpack to the back of our character, we do need to tell the character that has a jetpack on its back. Otherwise, this third-person character will never know what to do. Inside the third-person character, I'm going to create a function called Equip Jetpack. Inside it, I want to pass the reference of the jetpack that I want to equip. So here at input, I'll put jetpack to equip, and here in Boolean, I will change it by blueprint jetpack. And I will select the object reference because it's an object that is already created in my level. Oh, it seems like I didn't select it at all. Jetpack object reference. There we have it. Now, I will want to save this jetpack that I'm equipping to a variable, so I can reference it later. So I'll just right click it and promote to variable. this will be the current jetpack equipped. And now we just need to call this functionality from the jetpack whenever we pick this up. So here in the jetpack, we are attaching it, and now we want to equip it. So here in the character, I need to do another cast to my third person character. And from here, I will equip the jetpack. Which jetpack am I gonna be equipping to this character? Well, this one. So I'll just put this. So now I'll compile and save, and if I play, it will look the same. But the big difference is that now inside my third person character, we do have a variable that is referencing the current jetpack. Now that my character knows that we have a jetpack equipped, we can start modifying the actual movement. Let's go to the event graph and let's search for the movement. We have camera input, which controls the camera. We have also camera input, but with the gamepad. And here we will have the movement input. Now, here, what I want to do is stop modifying this value. I will want also the pitch and maybe even the roll. So whenever I'm in the air, I will want to be able to look upwards and move in that direction. So what I'm going to do here is, instead of just using this value, what I'll be doing is here, I'll just press type select, and the other select is also valid, but this one is a little bit easier to understand. And here in index, I will put boolean. So this will change to a false value and a true value. Now, whenever we have this current jetpack equipped, so if this is valid, the reference exists, it means that we have the jetpack equipped. So if we have the jetpack equipped, I do want the full value of the control rotation. So I'll just duplicate this and connect all the pins. And here, if it is valid, then I want all the value. If it is not, it means I'm in land and I do not have a jetpack equipped, so I'll just return it to the normal behavior. And I'm going to create a little bit of space so we can have a lot more space to play around and organize our nodes. And I'm going to do the same in the other input axis, which would be move right or left. Here it is. I'll just copy and paste this. And here, I'll do it like this. Just like that. Now, if we press play, still nothing will be happening. Right? But here is where it comes, where the secret sauce comes. Oh, and before the secret sauce here, it get forward vector. I need the right vector actually. otherwise it won't work. Let's just type get right vector, split it, and now we connect everything. And I'm going to explain this after we get it working. Otherwise it's too abstract. Okay, so nothing is happening, right? What we are doing here, we are taking in consideration more than one angle. Not only do I want the rotation whenever I'm in a flat space, because this control rotation, it's the rotation of the camera. Which means that if I'm looking that way, if I get the forward vector of my camera, it will be in this direction. If I get, and this is not up, it's forward, right? Like that way. If I get the right direction, it will be this one. So that's how in this piece of code, we know where to add the movement in the world direction, because we have these forward vectors and the right vector. But we are now using the full value, because whenever we are flying, whenever you press W, I want you to go forward in that direction. But the only thing we're missing is telling the character to start flight. So in Equip Jetpack, after setting up the reference, what I'm going to do is get the character movement and set the movement mode. And instead, by default is usually walking. When you're falling, you change to falling. Swimming, you also have to swimming. We will change it to flying. We'll press play. Now, right now, press W. But now if I look upwards, then I'm moving upwards. I'm moving in the direction wherever my camera is looking. And because we are using the 3-axis, then we are able to do this. Because if my camera is looking upwards, like this, my forward direction is upwards. Which, if we look at the normal code, we get rid of that, so we don't have too much noise in the movement input. But if I do have the jetpack equipped, I do want all the information that I can get from the rotation of my camera. Here it could be without the roll, because there is no place in our code where we are adding roll to our camera. But I'll just connect everything, it really won't matter too much. And if later on we do add roll, then it's a little headache that we can prevent. Okay, so now we do have the movement, but why is it happening? Well, it's because it already exists in the character movement component, which is this one. This component already has different types of movement, and we can define the land movement, which by default will be walking, but there's also falling, there's also swimming and flying. Default water movement is swimming, so there is already functionality that supports this type of movement. Here I will search not for walking, not for jumping or falling, character movement swimming, character movement flying. And this fly speed is the one that will let us move around in the air. If I increase it maybe by 3 times, now whenever I pick up the jetpack, I have it here. Now, as soon as I have the jetpack, I'm already in flight mode. So even though I'm in the ground, you see that I'm still sliding around, and that's because we are still flying. This does not mean that we are walking, right? Now you could define a button to change this movement mode, like, oh, you need to press spacebar in order to start flying. That is also valid, but for this implementation, which is very simple, as soon as you pick up the jetpack, you will be in a flying state. Now let's tweak a little bit of that flying state. For example, this movement maybe too much. Let's return it to the normal value, and we will tweak this braking deceleration flying. That way we are not sliding around. If I put maybe 1000 and I get it, then we get this nice behavior. Yeah, so we're still flying around, but we're not sliding as much. Okay, that's pretty good. What else should we add here? And that's an input to be able to go up and down directly without having to put my mouse looking upwards, right? Like this gets a little bit old pretty fast. So I'm going to go to the project settings. I have it already opened here, but if you don't, you can go to Edit, Project Settings, or Settings, Project Settings. Here I'll go to Input, Action Mappings, and here in Action Mappings, now that I see it, we have the jump, but I want to have a new input where I can press a button and it will still go upwards. So it is very similar, like moving forward or moving to the right. So I'll create an action mapping. We have talked a lot about the inputs that are here. A little summary is that action mappings are for concrete actions like jump. Axis mapping will be for continuous actions like movement. So let's create a new one. Let's call it move up, down. And I will press here this button, and then I will use Q. And in the editor, I believe if you right click and hold it, you can move the camera, and if you press Q, you will go downwards, and if you press E, you will go upwards. And that's the same thing that I want to have. So here Q will make me go down. So instead of sending a scale of 1, I will send a scale of -1. And I'll add another mapping. This one will be E, and this one will have a scale of 1. That's it for the project settings. Let's go back to the character, event graph, and here, just like we have it here, let's call the input axis move up. Here we have move up and down. I'll copy and paste this movement input. This movement input gives an input to the character, and the character needs a component that can process that information, which in our case is this character movement component. Which is the word direction that I want to use? Well, it's always up. So here I'll just put C up. And now we need to connect the scale value. If later on we add some role to our character, for example, like our character can be suspended in the air in this direction, like this is rotated here and this here, then we would need to change the code, because up won't mean a positive Z, which is this axis. It will be this new axis, but in my case it's not gonna happen, so I'll just put 1 here. And this is enough for me to pick up the jetpack, and now I'll press Q. Nothing will happen, but if I press E, I will go up. Q to go down, E to go up. And now we have that simple jetpack movement. Now that the mechanic is done, we can start polishing it a little bit. Like for example, whenever we grab the jetpack, it doesn't make much sense that whenever we're flying, we're still looking like we're walking around. So we do need to modify the animation blueprint of this character. We will select the mesh and let's click on the viewport so we know what we're selecting. So we're selecting the mesh. Here in the details panel, I'm going to go to the anim class. Here's animation blueprint, queen. Let's click on it. Let's open it. And this is a child animation blueprint. So we need to modify the parent. So this one also get that modification. Here at the top right side, the parent class is shown as animation blueprint mani, and we can click on the lens so we can search where it is, or well, the magnifying glass, or we can click on the pencil so we can edit. Now we are seeing the actual parent class. So here it's just a matter of creating a new state of animation. So we have these different variables, right? And if you have never seen an animation blueprint, it consists of two parts. One is the animation graph, where all the variables, for example, the speed, velocity, if it should move, if it is falling, we are getting all the information from the actual character here. And we're going to use that information in the animation graph so we can know when to execute different types of animation. For example, here in locomotion, we have an idle and we have a run. And this run is, well, a blend space that we can double click and we can see what's happening here. And if I hold Control, we can see how the animations are being blended. We have a video on this, so you don't need to worry too much about it. What I want to do is just play an idle animation while we are floating around. So I need to first set up the variable, just like this. We will go to the event graph. Here in variables, I'll create a new one and call it isFlying. Now to set up this variable, I do need to modify it here, which is in the event blueprint update animation. It works kind of like a tick, but it doesn't execute the same amount of time like the tick. Here I do not want to modify any of this, so I'll just create a new pin here in the sequence. I'll drag and drop my isFlying and set it. And in order to set it, there's already a movement component variable in this character, which is being set up here, I believe. Here, in the initialize, which works like a begin play inside the blueprint. Here we just get the character that this animation blueprint is being used for. We save the character, and inside the character we can get the character movement, and we save it as a variable. So we are just using whatever it already exists here. I'm just copying this movement component and I'm going to ask get movement mode. And we have get movement mode and we want this one. And now we want, well, I want to compare this movement mode with the flying mode to see if we are really flying. So I'll just drag a pin from here, type equal, and I'm not gonna choose this operator, I'm going to use this one, equal enum, because this is a numerator which means that we have a list of options. This is an enumerator. Behind the scenes, these are just 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but for the client, which is us, we can see a actual text that represents that number. So I want to check if it is also flying. So if the movement mode is flying, then I want to connect the result of this operation. So I'm always setting up this variable called isFlying to see if this is flying, then it will return true. And if it is true, then this variable will also have that value. Now it's time to use this value. We're going to go to the anim graph. We're going to go to the main states. And here we have different states of locomotion. So whenever we want to be, flying, let's create a new state for that, right? So add a state, let's call it flying. Now we need to enter this state to set up the animation that we want to play whenever we are flying. So let's double click it. And here we will put we could put a flying animation, a good pose while we are jetpacking around. Here in the asset browser, I'll just select the idle. And you can double click to see how it looks. And this is the jump. I wanted the idle, this one. Okay, so I have the idle here. Let's compile and save. And right now my state is not connected to anything. So we do need to check for my flying boolean in order to see when can I go to this flying state. So I could connect it like this, locomotion, connect it here. And this is a transition rule. If I double click it, I can define what should happen for going between the locomotion state to the flying state. And it's very simple because we already have this variable. If it is flying, I want to be in that state and I'll return. And whenever I'm not flying, if I want to return from the flying state to the locomotion state, we can see here that it's flying. That's my transition rule. And in this part, I'll get again is flying. I'm holding control, so I don't need to select get. And I'll type an exclamation sign to choose not boolean. So if I'm not flying, I should go back to the locomotion state. Now this will work for sure. If I press play, I'm walking around, I'll get my jetpack, and that sends me to a new state called flying. And right now it's looping that jump, which was not what I wanted. I wanted the item. There I go. And now we can see that the idle is working correctly. Now there are a little bit of nuisances with what we just did. Why? Because we have only defined a way of going from locomotion to a flying state. But if we were falling or jumping, we will not be able to enter the flying state until we fall down and then we enter the flying state. So if we test it and I jump to get it, after the animation ends, then I can see that my character will be using this animation. To fix this, well, again, we could just connect it like this and create the transition rule. But as you can see, you will be, sooner or later, you will be dealing with a graph that is too hard to understand. So what I'm going to do, and this is something that is new to Unreal 5 and it's the new way of doing stuff, especially this type of graph, is using aliases, which are exactly these nodes. So I'm going to create an alias by right-clicking state alias. Alias? This will be like, instead of to land, it will be to fly. And let me correct that, fly. Now I only need to worry about flying. When can I enter this? And you enter the flying state whenever you are flying. Just like that. Compile and save. And I'm going to remove this. And you will see that it's not working, right? If I press play, it's not working right now. It's because even though this transition rule is true, in this state alias, we have not selected the actual states that can transition to this one. So I'll select it to flying, and I want to be able to go to this flying state from the locomotion, yes, so I'll select it. From the jump, yeah, also. From the fall, yeah, if you're falling and you find a jetpack in the way, for sure go to flying animation. If I'm landing, I want to go to a flying animation, for sure. And if I'm already flying, then it's not needed really. And we can see the same type of configuration done here. Right. So now, if we compile and save, we press play, we get this and we enter that state. If we need to go back to the normal locomotion, well, we could go back to land and ask here, oh, it's not falling, and we could put an or not flying, but it would be better to create another alias. So let's do that. Add state alias to walking. Yeah, could be to walking. And I'll put it here. And I will enter this transition rule if we are not flying. It's the same transition rule that we created earlier, but now we're using it with a state alias. And we only want to go here if I'm in the flying state, because I'm going from flying to walking. So I'll just check here, flying. So let's compile and save. And if for whatever reason I could get rid of the jetpack, which I can't right now, let me press play, then we could return without any type of difficulty. Now that the animation is different, we can add a sweet type of detail in our character. So let's go to the character, and whenever we equip the jetpack, I want my legs to dangle a little bit. So I'll drag the mesh component, again I'm in the equip jetpack function, and I'll set simulate to set all bodies below simulate physics. Now I need a bone name, and I need to set the simulate physics, which will be true. How do I get the bone name? Well, we need to click the mesh, open the skeletal mesh, and go back to the skeleton, so we know what bone do I need. And I need the, where is my thigh? This one. So it's thigh L and thigh let me copy selected bone names here and go back to the third person. Bone name, I'm going to make one, make literal name, and here I'm going to paste the name. Also, I need to copy and paste this, because this is one leg. I do want the other leg to also be ragdolling around. So here, type R. Let's compile and save, and whenever we press play and grab the jetpack, my legs should be dangling around, but it's not happening. Why? And it's because in my mesh component, the collisions that it has will not allow it to be simulated. So we do need to change that. Here in character mesh, we have query only. So I will change this custom, and I will change this to collision enable. Now let's see what happens. Physics body seems like it's fine. Let's compile, let's press play, and let's see what's happening now. And now we get our character with their legs moving around, dancing along the map. If we needed to return the character to the normal place, let's just create that, right? Unequip jetpack, just in case you want to do that. So it will be very similar to the equip jetpack, so we can duplicate it with Ctrl D, and will be unequip jetpack. But it's a little bit different because I do not need a new jetpack, so let's just delete this. I do want to set the jetpack variable and clear it, which is exactly this. I don't want any value here, so I'll set in a null value here. The movement mode will be walking, and here set all bodies below simulate physics. We remove the new simulate. Now I need a button to unequip my jetpack. So let's just say that here in the project settings, action mappings, I will have maybe unequip, jetback, and let's say that is that T button. Let's go back to the third person character, go back to the event graph, and here I'll put unequip. Oh, this is the function. It's probably better that I call this something else, like unequip vehicle, or just unequip is fine. Unequip. Now I know that this one is the one that I want, and whenever I press it, I want to unequip the jetpack. So let's press play. Let's get the jetpack, let's fly around, let's press T. Nothing's happening. Oh, something is happening. Okay, so it was an error from my tests. I already had that T button assigned to something else, so don't worry about it, you won't get that error. If we press play, we get the jetpack, we fly around, we press T, and we immediately stop walking around it. Well, stop flying and start walking around with it. The thing is, we want to unequip the jetpack, so unequipping it here in my blueprint should also exist, which should mean that we can detach the actor. So in unequip the jetpack, before cleaning up the variable, we can get the variable, detach from actor, and I'm just going to leave it like this. Keep world, rotation also keep world, and scale keep world. Compile, save, play it, flying around, press T, and now we leave it there. Yeah, it's pretty easy to also unequip the jetpack, and if I wanted to equip it again, let's just put it there. I just need to grab it again, and again I'm flying around. The last thing I do want to add is a little bit of VFX. First, let me close everything that I don't need, which close tabs to the right. Like this. Perfect. And I don't need a game mode also because I'm already using it. So I want to have some VFX behind my jetpack. So let's create a Niagara system for that. Here in the content drawer, I'll go to my mechanic jetpack, defaulter jetpack, and here I'll create a Niagara system. I'll create an empty system so we start from the same place. This is a Niagara system, jetpack, thrust. And VFX are not my specialty, so I'll just create a simple one. What I want to teach you is how to control it in Blueprints. Let's save, let's open it, and here we have a jetpack thruster system. This blue node will be in charge of controlling how the system overall behaves. But I do want to have the emitters, so for now I will not touch it. So let's create the emitter that will be used for this thruster. Let's just right click, add emitter, and we have some templates here. The one that will be especially useful is the simple sprite burst. As you see, we now have a simple sprite here appearing. We will start modifying this so we can have something that could look like a thruster. We need movement. So here in the particle spawn, we have initialize particle, but I want also a little bit of movement, so I'll press the plus button here and add velocity. I don't want it to go upwards, I want it to go downwards, so here I will put -40 was a good value, I believe. Maybe a little bit. Nah, it's okay for now. Now, my particle is a little bit lonely, right? So here in initialize particle, I want to create more particles, and the way to do that is by changing the spawn rate, which is actually not here in the initialize particle. We will change something else here. It's here in the emitter update. In the emitter update, here we have emitter state self once. We do not want that. We want to change it to life cycle mode system. Now, instead of spawn burst instantaneous, I'm going to delete it, and I'm going to add spawn rate. The spawn rate here is 1. We can put it to, excuse me, it was 0. We can put it to 1 and we will have the same behavior. But if we bump it up, maybe to 10, now 10 of these particles are being created every second. Now, these need to be a little bit more lengthy. So these particles need to live a little bit more. So in initialize particle, the lifetime, I'm going to change it to 4. This means that the trail that it leaves is a little bit longer. Now, let's increase the value maybe, or yeah, 50 is fine. Let's test with the 50. If we change the value here, we will see smaller particles, right? So for now, let's try it with 50. Now the thing that we need to modify, we have here the particle update, which happens after the particle is spawned. You see here that the longer that the particle lives, the more it fades out at the end. So here in particles scale color, this is how the particles are changing their color through time. Solar forces and velocity, I won't modify this too much. I do not need limits, but I do want to scale that these particles, and it's just, we can see it as one, like one that exists like that. So here in the particle update, I want this to have, and where is it? Scale, sprite, size. Here it is. And we now see that the more that the particle lives, the more that they get bigger. But I want it the other way, so I'll change it by doing this, clicking here. And now they start at full value, but they end like this. Why am I doing this? Because whenever I increase the spawn rate, let's say bump it to 50, this creates a trail that is more like a thruster. And you can modify, where is it? Scale sprite by size. You can modify the type of scale or dimensions or size that this will have. And this one is the one that I want. Okay, so now we have a particle. Well, we already created, but it's a matter of testing if it's going to work or not. Let's just drag and drop in my level. And now we have it here. Now if it moves, it will be seen like this. So it may work. Let's just try it. We need to add it to our jetpack. We need to go to the blueprint jetpack. Here in the viewport, I'll click on the left side and I'll add a Niagara system. Niagara particle system component. Because I already had selected my system, it was added immediately. And I do need to reset this value. There it is. So it is working with my jetpack, something like this maybe. And we see that 50, it was too much. So let's change it. Initialize particle attribute from 50 to 30. Let's save it. Let's see if that's a lot better. That's a much better actually. And now we just need to copy it, select our left side. Well, this one should be right side. Now we select the left side, we paste it, and we can, oh, it wasn't created under the left side, so let's just drag and drop it so we can attach it correctly. And now we can reset it. Now you will see that it has inherited some of the scale. So we can just remove the scale manipulation. It's the same because the scale of the emitter is controlled by the actual Niagara system. So now we have this -60, and this one is the same, -50. Okay, everything -50. Okay. And if we play around it, or play with it, we can see that, well, we attach it to the wrong side, which means that our our socket is the wrong way. So we do need to fix that, actually. Let's go to the mesh again, select the skeleton here, select the socket, which should be near the spine 5. Spine 5. Jetpack socket, here it is. And I'll just rotate it 180. Just like that, 180. Yes. And let's try it. I'm pressing Alt P, and now should be fine. Right, but we only want this to work when we are using it, and it's for sure leaving too much. The particle is staying alive too much, but we can change that here in the initialize particle lifetime 4 seconds, maybe 2 seconds was enough. Okay, so here in the jetpack, whenever the jetpack is equipped, I want these 2 thrusters to work. I will have here a function called, it should be a function, could also be an event, but I'll create it as a function. Enable thrusters, and I'll call both of them and activate them. Just like this. I'll select both of them and remove the auto activation. Now, disabling thrusters is the same, but changing the value. Instead of activate, deactivate. Disable the thrusters, and here it be deactivate. Now, whenever we are equipping the jetpack, we can double click here, and with the current jetpack equipped, at the end I'll activate the thrusters. Oh, it was enable thrusters. And whenever we unequip the jetpack, then before detaching it, I'll disable the thrusters. And let me move everything to the side. And now we have it. We press play. The jetpack is not working. We get it, it starts working. We stop using the jetpack, pressing T, and the thrusters are also deactivated. So, as a conclusion, we now know how to pick stuff up, create a blueprint, communicate between them. That's what we did for the jetpack in order to tell the character that we are now in jetpack mode. We have created some inputs, we have created the VFX for the thrusters, we have messed around a little bit in the animation department by changing the animation and also enabling some ragdoll for the legs of this character. So it has been a very productive video. Hopefully you learned something new with this, and if you don't, I at least hope that you found it entertaining. So yeah, that will be it for now, and I will see you in the next video.